Welcome in to Right Hand, Left Hand. I'm Jonathan Lopez. You can call me John. I'm here with my boy, my brother, Josh Sparks. Very excited to have y'all here with us on the very first episode of our brand new podcast. Josh, it's a pleasure to be here with you, man.
Yeah, man, always. Love it. Yeah, man, we did the podcast. We did mine last year a little bit, and we just got to talking, and we came up with this. We got a good fight card coming up. I'm looking forward to that. That's mainly one of the reasons why we decided to start it. And the funny thing is, we didn't plan this whole red shirt, blue shirt either. If you didn't notice that.
No, I didn't notice that. That actually works out really nice because you and I we're best friends, but we have really contrasting viewpoints on a lot of things. We're here for some MMA talk, some debate. I am a biologist. You are in real estate, so we'll probably touch on those topics a little bit over the course of the pod. We're not going to limit ourselves to just MMA, although when we first met in Nashville, that was one of the first things that was a sticking point in our relationship that made us such good friends, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I took you to your first UFC event there in Nashville. We don't really I don't remember much of it other than a couple of things that happened that night. We'll definitely touch on those later on because we can make a whole damn podcast off of that.
That's right. A lot of vodka and a lot of mischief that night. That's for sure. But man, UFC 259 this weekend, this Saturday, right?
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. We're not going to go through the whole card because nobody wants to hear us talk for that long, and we could go for that long. But I figured we'd go ahead and start with the Joseph Benavidez and Askar Askarov fight.
Yeah. So
give me the odds on that.
So right now I'm looking at Benavidez plus 110 and Askarov minus 134. So we each picked one fight from the prelims. That was the fight that you picked, right?
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a very interesting fight. As I was watching, I went back today and watched a little video on both of them. And Joseph Benavidez, his 7 losses, 2 to Figgy, who's a champ now, 2 to Dominic Cruz, who was a champ when he lost to him, 2 to Demetrius Johnson, probably the greatest flyweight ever, and then to Sergio Pettis. I mean, those losses, they're to the best in the world.
I mean, you're right, but man, he got worked by Biggie in those last 2 fights.
He did. And it's interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in this next fight and how he recovers from that, because it was just brutal the second fight. The first fight, I thought he did pretty good that first round, and then just got annihilated after that. And then even going back to Askarov, so his one draw is to Brandon Moreno.
I know.
So it's interesting, but I went back and watched some of his fights too. Tim Elliott was able to take him down pretty easily. Pantoja took his back. And, I think the key to this fight is going to be the wrestling of Joseph Benavidez. I think him with that unorthodox striking that he has, he throws big looping shots, kicks, the teeth kicks as well, is going to make a difference. And just, I've gone back and forth. I had Askarov going before I actually went back and rewatched some of the fights, and he just didn't look good, man. He was getting beat up in those fights that he ended up winning. He pulled them out, but I think the experience is going to take over, and I'm going with Joseph Benavidez, and I like him as the underdog as well.
So you think Askarov got beat up in that Tim Elliott fight?
He did in some portions, yes.
I mean, he took some shots there towards the end in the third round, but I don't know, man. I thought he was working Tim Elliott pretty good, and I think it was just the chin on Tim Elliott. I mean, that guy's nuts, and just the way he moves is so
definitely
weird.
Demetrius, right? Yeah, it gave Demetrius one of his toughest title fights back before he lost to Cejudo, for sure.
Yeah, Tim Elliott's on this card too, right? He's in the early prelims.
He is, yeah.
So that's one.
I'm not sure who he's fighting. I can't remember off the
He's
top of
got
my head.
Jordan Espinoza, so that actually could be a pretty decent fight as well. But like you said, we don't have time to cover every single fight.
No.
But I'll certainly be watching that. So back to the Askarov and Benavidez fight, though. I'm all in on Askarov. I'm going to be honest with you. I just Benavidez is 36 years old, and just the damage that he took in that Figueiredo
I mean, both the
KO,
fights.
man. Oh my
Both those
God.
fights.
Like he took a lot of damage. I just don't know if he can withstand the power that Askarov has in those early rounds. Like
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
I just don't see it happening for him.
That's why we don't agree on everything.
So
And I'm putting my money on the underdog in this fight. I like it. I like the odds.
all right, well we gotta keep track of our records here so we can brag and see who knows best later on
All
as
right,
things
I'll go ahead and write that down for us. That way we can keep track of that.
right on. So we're off to a good start. Disagreeing already. I remember on your podcast on Sparks Your Interest when I was on there the last time we did a preview for, gosh, I don't even remember which card it was, but
I believe it was the December card? Was it the I don't remember either. Damn.
I'm
Oh
telling you, man, I
well.
don't recall, but I'm telling you, we agreed on just about every single thing, and that
I
made for a
remember
pretty
that.
boring discussion
I
to
remember that.
anybody who was listening, I feel sure. So
So I got Joey B and you're taking Askarov, correct?
that's right, baby.
All
Number
right.
two versus number three.
All right. So who did you pick off the prelims? Who did you like? What fight did you like?
I chose the featured prelim, Dominic Cruz and Casey Kinney, which I was telling you, honestly, this could be a fight that could headline a fight night, in my opinion. I mean, really, any of these,
Well, I
almost
mean,
any of these cards on the second, the late prelims could headline their own
oh
fight
hell,
night, in my opinion.
even any of the fights on the pay per view that aren't the title fights could headline.
Absolutely, this is just a stacked card, top to bottom, and I'm really looking forward to just sitting my ass in a chair and watching. Gosh, was it going to be about 7 hours of fights?
Yeah,
barring any
I'm gonna
COVID.
I haven't been drinking this week just so I can prepare myself for that. And then I'm gonna switch back and forth for the first little bit because my Tar Heels are playing Duke at 6, so I'm gonna watch a little bit of that.
That's right. We both love our college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I am a NC State Wolfpacker. Josh is a North Carolina Tar Heel guy. So
If you
that's
can't
another
tell
thing.
from the back in my office here,
That's right. Josh has got his Sports Illustrated cover. Who's that on the cover right there?
that's Kenny Meeks when they played Gonzaga, when they came back
Oh, all right.
after losing the following year.
Well, I got Gonzaga running pretty much uncontested through March Madness this year, but hopefully we can talk about that here in a couple of weeks for a little bit. But
yeah, it's coming up.
back to this Dominic Cruz and Casey Kinney fight. I am excited for this fight. Dominic Cruz, obviously the veteran in the matchup, kind of, in my opinion, a risk that he didn't really have to take. I think he could have gotten a better matchup if we're being honest. Now, Casey Kinney's a rising star in the bantamweight division, but
Is he ranked?
no, he's not ranked. He hasn't. I mean, he's looked good in his last couple of fights. He beat gosh, I don't remember the guy's first name, but
Nathaniel.
Alatang. So Nathaniel Wood was the last fight. Mm-hmm. No, the previous one, it was Alatang, who he looked pretty good against Alatang, and then versus Nathaniel Wood, I think that there could have been an argument made that he lost that fight. He certainly won the third round. Wood got a big hematoma on his head and just looked beat up by the end of the fight. Both those guys, they just came out at an unbelievable pace and then got a little bit gassed towards the end. And
Yep.
Casey Kinney threw some heavy hands there late in the fight that ended up getting him the victory. But it was by no means a spectacular, domination of Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel Wood is talented, but he's obviously no Dominic Cruz, right?
You mean Kennedy? on this, or Kenny?
I mean, either one of them. I'm just from an opponent
Okay,
standpoint for
I see
Casey
what you're
Kenny. He
saying. Yeah,
hasn't faced anybody with the skill set and the talent that Dominic Cruz has. And Dominic Cruz is what, 35, 36 years old.
yeah.
But I feel like that tends to affect you more in these lighter weight classes, especially because of the speed with which
Speed.
these guys move. Right? Casey Kenny's certainly got that. I
Yeah,
don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
yeah. So absolutely. So for Dominic, he hasn't won a fight since 2016. He, like you said, he is 35. His last two fights were against Cody Garbrandt, who just absolutely put a showcase against him, and Henry Cejudo, who knocked him out. Granted, that
So I
was
just
go
real
ahead.
quick, I just think it's a little unfair to hold that one. You said he hasn't won since 2016, but he's only fought once, and it was against Henry Cejudo. And
Well, he
yeah, he
fought
did take
Cody
an
too.
L in that. That was in 2016, I thought.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not to his fault that he hasn't fought that long. I mean, he had injuries. He had the ACL, and then he had the Achilles. Um, he's got that awkward fighting style that I like, and that made him a dominant champion. That the closest thing that I saw to that was T.J. Dillashaw at his best. I mean, granted, T.J. You know how I feel about steroids. Once you get caught with that, nah, I'm done with you. I love T.J., but we'll have this. That'll be another discussion. But yeah, I mean, I like Dominic in this fight. Using the angles that he creates. It's gonna be hard for Casey to hit him, to catch him with those big shots. Um, and like you said before, I mean, who's he? He hasn't fought a Dom. He hasn't fought anybody in the top 15 that's been there, done that kind of thing. And I think, like I said, experience does play a factor in a lot of these fights when you're looking into them, especially on this card. I think you got a lot of the older guys fighting the younger guys, and we'll see how it goes. For me, well, this is your fight. You pick it. You go first. Let's see what you got. I want to hear your thoughts
So
on.
this is what I see happening here, and our odds right now are Dominic Cruz plus 110, Casey Kenny minus 137, which I think is an absolute travesty for a guy with the resume that Dominic Cruz has. And I'm picking Cruz, right? So I don't think Casey Kenny's going to be able to catch him with those shots that have got him on this win streak. I think that unorthodox kind of movement that Dominic Cruz has will be a substantial challenge for Casey Kenny to match. And I think Dominic Cruz has a gas tank to just avoid those shots in round one, start doing some work in round two, and then in round three, really take command of the fight. Maybe take Casey Kenny down. I don't think Casey Kenny's going to have any success whatsoever if he tries to take Dominic down. And so I really just think Dominic Cruz has more paths to victory and is probably going to get himself back in the win column with this one.
I like the pick. I've been going back and forth on this one. I'm actually going to go with Dom too as well. I think the experience, the angles of footwork. He's just not going to be there to hit. He's not Cody Garbrandt. He's not going to catch him like he did. I mean, he's not. He doesn't have the speed. He's got the power, but his Dom's just going to be too much for him. The fight IQ is going to be too much, and like you said, even the wrestling is going to play a factor. I think if Dom uses that, he wins pretty easily. I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't, 30-26 on one of the scorecards.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just the hype train with Casey Kenny is what's leading to those, I think, inappropriate odds right there. But
yeah, I agree.
So we'll agree on that one. Both going Dominic Cruz right there, especially at the plus money. I think that's a good value bet to make right there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And now for my main card pick. I mean, we had one of each really. So
right.
other than the title fights, so I actually went with Islam Makhachev. versus Drew Dober, and it's your classic wrestler versus striker. Islam, he's got to get the fight to the ground. He does have KO power. He knocked out Gleison Tebow within the first minute. Um, but his success is to get him to the ground, just like his coach is Khabib. He's going to be in your face. He's going to be tough. He's a Dagestan wrestler, and I think he's got to submit him or just grind out a decision in this. Dober, he's got to catch him. He's got to. He's a talented striker, powerful, got that real one punch KO power. Uh, his weakness, he's been submitted before, and I can see that very easily happening in this fight with early submission, late into the first round, early second.
So Islam is actually the biggest favorite on this entire card, top to bottom. Got him at minus 130, or sorry, minus 335, and Dober being plus 250. So you could argue that there's some value on Dober to get a knockout there.
Yeah, and that's what you're going to have to count on, is getting that KO.
I mean there's really no other way.
No. He's not going to get a decision, and he's not going to submit him.
Because to me, Dober is just kind of this like gatekeeper guy who's always hovering at the outskirts of the top 15. He's been around, but with a guy like Islam, who Dagestani wrestler, up and comer, that style's been pretty unstoppable.
And Dover's tough, man. I mean, he's fought Beneil Dariush, and lost a decision to him. I mean, he's a tough guy. And, you see how good Dariush has looked recently. So
yeah, I mean, you don't hang around the way he
this is definitely going to be a good coming out party for Islam, I believe. And then I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see him get somebody in the top 10, that top 5 range.
Oh, definitely, absolutely. I mean, it sounds like we're both going Islam here. I'm not sure how much more there is to really address with this one, just because such a prohibitive favorite. And
exactly. And for me,
we seem to agree.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough to pick a main card fight, but I liked the Islam and Khabib storyline in that. We'll get to see Khabib again. I think Khabib's retired, but we'll see. But like I said, I'm going Islam. I have him in my DraftKings lineup as well, guys. I'm gonna put out a DraftKings lineup later on for us, and John will do picks for you as well later on, what he likes.
That's right. So I chose the Thiago Santos and Alexander Rakic fight. This is another huge matchup. Really excited for this one. Thiago Santos last time out took a loss by submission to Glover Teixeira. He threw some heavy shots in that first round and then wound up getting submitted. He got pretty gassed out pretty quickly, honestly. And then Rakic, in his last fight, he fought Anthony Smith, headlined a fight night. Looked great, in my opinion, against a guy who is very tough. Everyone respects Anthony Smith. He's got a great resume. And so that's a really good win for somebody. That's right, Lionheart, baby. And so Rakic, in my opinion, is really a rising star in the division. He's on his way up. And this is a tough one to pick. I'm going to be honest with you. Now, I could see Rakic's pretty quick on his feet, right? You got to beat a guy like Lionheart. Thiago Santos, more of a bruiser, right? Bigger guy. So, honestly, in my opinion, just the way that Thiago Santos got gassed out against Glover Teixeira, I think Rakic is quicker than Teixeira, and I think he'll be able to dodge those shots. I could see Santos catching him, probably. Santos, right now, our odds are plus 138 for Santos. Rakic is minus 167. So a little bit of a favorite there for Rakic. I think, that Glover Teixeira loss is probably hurting him. But he did hang in there with John Jones, right? So certainly not a guy that you can count out. What do you think?
Yeah. So here are my notes I was looking at it while you were talking. Um, and my notes on Rakic was he is okay with trading in the pocket with guys. And that's when I looked at a lot of his fights.
That's trouble.
And that's not good when you're trading
No.
with Thiago. I mean, for me, I have Thiago in my DraftKings lineup. I'm going with him. I think he's got great value, and coming off those two losses, one he blew out his knee against John. I thought he won that fight. I thought he beat John. Then he comes back against Glover. It's his first fight in over a year. It's a tough fight to come back to. Glover is no slouch. He's the number one contender, and rightfully so. Um, I think you're going to see a different Thiago than you saw against Glover, and I'm going with Thiago by KO in probably second round.
So I'm going to take Rakic by decision. I'm not super confident in it for all the reasons that you just mentioned. However, I am not going to bet this fight. I don't think. I think this is one I'm going to pass on just because it's such an even matchup. And if it was minus 110, even odds for both guys, right? I guess not even odds, but the same odds rather for both guys. I would probably go Rakic. I think he's really talented, and I think this is really his big opportunity to vault himself up towards probably a number one contender fight with Glover Teixeira. I think would be the logical next step if he's able to get this victory here. But that actually brings up an interesting question that I want to ask you: is if Thiago Santos wins this fight, what does that mean for him? Because he just lost to Glover.
Right. I think it really all depends on what happens in the main event. I think if Jan wins, Jan and Glover will fight. Then whoever wins this fight will fight the winner of that, or maybe they'll have to fight one more, because Glover is there now cutting weight, and just for the backup in case something happens to Izzy or Jan. Mm-hmm. So I think it just really depends on what happens in that main event and who wins this fight. If Rakic wins and then Jan wins, you'll see Jan and Glover, and then they'll probably wait and give Rakic the title fight. That'd probably be my.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
I think Thiago will have to fight one more guy. Probably. Oh man, what's the other guys? Yuri. Probably if he wins his fight, he'll probably have to fight him.
Right on. So let's just recap our picks here from the 4 fights that we discussed. So in the prelims, I took Askarov, you took Benavidez, and we both took Dominic Cruz to beat Casey Kinney. Then in our 2 main card fights that are not championship fights, I'm going Rakic, you're going Thiago Santos, and then we both are in agreement that Islam is going to outgrapple Drew Dober and get a pretty easy W right there.
That's right. Let's get to the meat of the card now.
Yeah, let's go ahead and start moving into the 3 championship fights. Man, this is really exciting. You can say what you will about what you think is going to happen in the Amanda Nunes fight, but we'll go through them in chronological order because I think these other 2 men's fights are going to be absolutely electric.
Yeah, absolutely. So first we got Peter Yan versus Aljo. I think this is a fight other than listen, I didn't like the Peter Yan Jose Aldo title fight. I thought that was BS. I thought, you could have gave that. You should have. This fight should have already happened in that place.
You don't think Jose Aldo should have been fighting for that?
No, absolutely
Me
not.
neither.
I think it was a name, and I think
absolutely.
Jose's old, man. I watched him back in the WEC days. He's just not the same fighter he
He's
used to
done,
be.
dude.
But whatever. Jan's a champ. Everybody wants to call him paper champ. Whatever. He's a champ. No matter what you look at it, he's a champ. He's tough. He's got great stand up. Muay Thai is phenomenal, and he has KO power like you wouldn't believe at bantamweight. And he
Absolutely.
will put your lights out. And those leg kicks he was hitting Jose with, they were brutal. And I mean they were just trading leg kicks there. Aljo, great wrestler. He's got that unorthodox striking, very similar to like a Dominic Cruz, the way they move their shoulders. Um, he's light on his feet. He's long. Um, you know, and what a performance he put on against Corey Sandhagen. I mean, you talk about a perfect fight. That's the perfect fight. You could, I mean, for him.
Yeah, I mean, he looked great. I believe I had him in that fight too, so he looked even better to me. Now, the one thing I will say about um, Sterling is, yeah, he has a lot of momentum coming in. I think he's on a 5-fight win streak.
Something like that, yeah. Well, his last
And
3 have been against Jimmy Rivera, Pedro Munoz, and Corey Sandhagen. And we just watched Pedro and Rivera, and that was I think that was the fight of the night.
it's an excellent fight.
That was a great fight.
I really enjoyed that one. And then the title fight last week was a total dud with Cyril Gahn just dancing around the entire time and staying out of reach of Jairzinho. But
that's another.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that. And
we don't even need to talk about that fight anyway.
That's right. Nobody needs to talk about that fight. Oh man, it makes me a little bit angry. But this is interesting right here, and there's actually huge value on Peter Yan right here, I think, because this is one where you've got split odds on the fighters, right? -110 on both guys, and I think that's an absolute steal because, as I mentioned a moment ago, sure, Aljo's got momentum coming in. He looked great in those last 3 fights, almost flawless against Sandhagen, who is obviously a beast, right? We just saw that flying knee about a month ago that was just absolutely unbelievable. However, Peter Yan's a different beast, man. You mentioned the power. One thing that is a little bit underrated is going to be that takedown defense, right? So Aljo's a volume guy, not a power guy. Even on his takedowns, he's a volume guy, not an efficiency guy, right? And so he'll shoot from distance and try to take you down, but Jan's takedown defense is excellent. I don't know how thoroughly it's really been tested, especially recently, but the guy's really stout, and Aljo's more of a lanky guy like me, a long, skinny kind of guy. So I don't see him being able to take Yan down. I see Peter Yan probably getting a knockout in this fight is going to be my pick. I could also see him winning by decision. I could see Aljo getting him in some clinch situations, but just enough to make it to a decision. I don't see Aljo winning a stand-up fight. The only way I see him winning is to get lucky on a takedown, basically, and submit Yan.
All right, so you're going with Yan?
I am indeed.
All right, so for me, I'm going with Aljo. I think he's going to win by decision. I think he's going to stay on the outside. I think he's going to use his length, use that wrestling because he's great from distance using that wrestling. The one time he did get caught was against Marlon Moraes. Caught him with the leg kick, but caught him with the knee as he was coming in for the takedown. I don't see him making that mistake again. I think he learned his lesson there. So I'm going with Aljo by decision.
All right. Good. Another one we're going to disagree on. So
listen,
let's go ahead and
if you go into the Amanda fight, I'm just going to go ahead and show you my notes that I have here. I don't know if you can see that. Not even close. Amanda is the GOAT.
That's pretty much what I have here. Yeah, I've got about half a page on Jan and Sterling, half a page on Izzy and Jan, and then about 4 lines on Amanda Nunes and Megan Anderson. So let's just start with the ridiculous odds on this, even more ridiculous than your typical Amanda Nunes line, which is typically going to hover around -800 to -1,000.
Outrageous.
Amanda Nunes is minus 1250 right now, with Megan Anderson being plus 750. And there's not even value on Megan Anderson at plus 750.
No.
At this point, they're just taking people out of the woodwork and lining them up, and Amanda Nunes is just knocking them down.
They
It's
don't
ridiculous.
even have rankings
I
on the
know.
UFC website for this division. It's just Amanda holding 2 titles.
So let me read you what I wrote down for this fight. What way could Anderson win? Clinch? Ground game? Both. She has a record of failing to control both the clinch and the ground game, even against inferior opponents, right? So how's she going to do that against Amanda Nunes? Her takedown defense is weak. The short answer to my question of what way could Anderson win is no.
Nothing.
Just no. There is no way.
She's not going to knock her out.
No, of course not. I mean, that would be absolutely unbelievable. Now, this fight is at 145, so if Amanda's ever going to get caught, it's, probably more likely to happen at 145, but
I'm not. We can move on to the main event now.
Yeah, and just from a gambling perspective, just pass on this. Nobody, don't even worry about it, guys. All right.
Unless you're
ready for this?
Unless you're going to put 50,000 on Amanda, what's the point?
That's right. But if you're rich enough to be gambling, 50,000, is it really worth the payout at minus 1250? So I agree with you. Let's go ahead and move on, and let's get ready to talk about the fight that we have been waiting for months, ever since Jan took the title. Really, this has been talked about and in the works. So right now we have Israel Adesanya minus 230, Jan at plus 185. Take it away, Josh.
All right, so I didn't really have a lot of notes on this fight. From what I've seen before, Jan is kind of like a Paulo. He's kind of like a Romero. Both big, both powerful. They're all kind of built the same way. If you kind of look at their stature. And look what Izzy
hulking.
did to them. Yeah.
I would use the word hulking.
Yeah, and look what Izzy did to them. He made it look easy. The Romero fight was boring, yes, but I mean, he won that fight. It was awful. His footwork is better. Jan has the KO advantage, absolutely. That Polish power is ridiculous. What he did to Dominic's ribs, I rewatched that fight the other day. It was brutal. Those leg kicks,
nasty.
Those body kicks he was throwing, man, it was brutal. The only way that I see this actually being a good fight is if Izzy can't make the walk-in Glover and Jan fight.
So I don't think you're going to get out of Jan what you got out of Yoel Romero, which was essentially run away.
No,
I don't think that's coming. I don't think that's coming our way here. And actually, I was digging into the stats a little bit, and I think Jan is a little more efficient than people probably think he is, particularly with his jab and with his movement. I think it gets a little underrated just because of how, like we were talking about, how he's just kind of one of those hulking dudes who, who kind of looks like he's just built to lean forward and plow through some shots. I mean, the volume and the accuracy numbers across the board are pretty similar, although Izzy will hit you with a little bit more of the calf kick. And I think that could play a huge role in this fight.
Take away that power.
Jan being a guy that you think of as being kind of top heavy. Again, just we're really we're really generalizing Jan based on his body. We're really body shaming Jan right now.
Yeah, and it's nothing against Jan. I just don't think that he's good enough to beat Izzy. I just don't. I mean, it's not. I think he had a great matchup against Dom, and he looked great in that fight. He did. But you got to remember, him and Izzy both fought on that card. Izzy looked better.
Absolutely. And honestly, Dominic Reyes is kind of, in my eyes, a little bit of a poor man's Izzy. Like, it's kind of a similar fighting style. And I don't know, man. I don't think that the KO is Jan's only path to victory. I don't think he's ever going to hit Izzy with a shot that's going to knock out Izzy. I think Izzy's too quick. I think he's going to hit him with some of those calf kicks, get him a little wobbly. But what I do think Jan could do that nobody is talking about is get a takedown and use that size to his advantage. He doesn't do it a lot, but when he does shoot for a takedown, he's really efficient. He gets them at a pretty high rate. And so if he was able to do that, now the thing is not just taking Izzy down, is keeping him down, right? Because he's so quick and so slippery and gangly and deceptively strong too,
and
that he will just pop right back up.
Keep in mind, so I was listening earlier, and Izzy is walking around at 193. So,
oh wow.
So he's not even at the 205 limit. He's walking around at that 193 range.
That's crazy, because if Jan can get him on the ground and get his body weight forward and really press on the shoulders and on the head of Izzy, kind of drain his gas tank a little bit and take away some of that quickness advantage that Izzy is going to have, I think there's a path there for Jan.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that there's not a path, but like you said, like we're going with takedowns. I think it's not just going for takedowns. I think it's putting him against the cage, grinding on him there. Almost like Usman did to Masvidal. I mean, if you got to step on his damn feet, step on his feet, do whatever you got to do to win the fight, because your paths to victory aren't as great as Izzy's are.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. That's just it. Is he's gonna have to try and sap that energy and really use that grappling if he wants to have any shot of either catching him in a second or third round KO or TKO, or to me the other potential route to victory is a ground and pound, right, where he just manages to get on top of him and get a favorable position and just pound him.
Jan's not. He's got some submissions. He's got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, so he's not no slouch on the ground. So it should be interesting when it comes to that aspect of it. I don't think it'll hit the ground. I think if Jan has a chance, he has to put him against the cage. Don't try and wear your own self out trying to get him down and hold him down. I think he needs to do that, the same approach that Usman did to Masvidal.
All right. Well, are you ready to make a pick on this, the final fight of our very first right hand, left hand podcast?
Yeah, I've got Izzy by decision.
Yeah, I also had Izzy, probably by decision. I think Jan's got a great chin, so I don't really see Adesanya being able to put him out of it. But
yeah, Santos is put Jan out, but other than that, I don't really know who else has.
Then again, I thought Paulo Costa had enough chin to stand up a little bit better than he did too. It's just Izzy is just so deceptively strong. It was the
wine he
man.
had. Remember, it was that bottle of wine he had. He was.
Oh, don't get me started on this guy, man. Had too much wine the night before. Like you're not a professional fighter, and you give me a break, man. All right, well, we're gonna wrap it up, I guess, here on that note with us agreeing. So. Yeah, we did agree on the Amanda fight, obviously, but I went Jan and you went Sterling, so we've got enough of
there's enough
disagreement and debate here.
Absolutely, for some bragging rights here. I think we got 1, 2, 3. We got 3 out of the 7 fights, so that can make a difference.
That's right.
Absolutely,
man. I'm excited for this fight. I am excited to get back with you next week and do this again,
Yeah,
and to do this
absolutely.
going forward. Um, Real quick before we wind down, though, I did want to give a one last betting tip, because there's not much value on Islam at minus 335. And I think there is value on Izzy at minus 230, because you're not gonna probably get him in the middleweight division with that type of a line.
No.
So, if you wanted to go big on Izzy, you could. But what I actually did is I parlayed Izzy and Islam, because I think Islam's pretty much a lock. And I got pretty close to even money on that one. It wasn't quite even money. I think it was around minus 115, minus 110, something like that when I parlayed those together. But if you're looking to get a little bit more value out of a couple of these main card fights, that's what I'd recommend. And then bet on the Thiago Santos and Alexander Rakic fight at your own peril. I am not touching that one with a 10-foot pole.
And I'm actually going to put out a DraftKings lineup tomorrow. So check it out on the YouTube page.
All right. I was about to say, where can our listeners find that?
Yeah, it'll be on the Right Left YouTube page. So I'll have that up and running tomorrow.
Awesome. We should consider having you put those out on Twitter as well, putting pics out on Twitter as well. But we'll develop the social media stuff as we go on here.
Yeah, so bear with us, guys. We will get everything figured out eventually.
A little bit harebrained on the first one. We were just so excited that we really wanted to start, and really it's just two guys cutting it up. Two best buds who met, as the bio in our YouTube page says, slinging barbecue in Nashville. And we've gone our separate ways. I live in Oklahoma now. Josh is back home in North Carolina, where we're both originally from. But man, I'm really excited to embark on this journey with you. And man, just a little preview for next week as we come to an end here. I'm looking forward to talking about this Leon Edwards fight and the welterweight division. We're going to finally see him back in action.
Yeah, I'm excited. And not only that, but Bilal Muhammad too, man. Remember the name, baby.
Oh, I remember. It's hard to forget after some of the stuff he's done. Yeah, I think there's a lot to talk about in the welterweight division, obviously, with Usman's recent, just absolute brilliant title defense. Man, he looked great. Masvidal out there barking for another title shot. Excited to talk a little bit about that. I want to rail against how dirty they did Alistair Overeem this past week as well, after they let him go.
Yeah, him and JDS gone.
Well, I think JDS probably deserved it a little bit more than Alistair did, but we can talk about that next week. And thanks for joining us here on Right Hand, Left Hand. Once again, I'm John and my boy Josh right here. Thanks for being with us. Josh, send us off.
Y'all have a good night. Enjoy the fight.